Have you ever felt the weight of a silent expectation? That look from your father, waiting for you to follow in his footsteps. That invisible pressure to honor the family name. That suffocating feeling that your identity isn't entirely your own. That you're just another link in a chain forged long before you were born. It's a universal experience. It doesn't matter if you were born into a family of doctors, lawyers, business people, or criminals. The dynamic is always the same. There's a script waiting for you, a role already written, a mask you're expected to wear, even if it suffocates who you really are inside. Michael Corleone looks at Kay Weber and says with absolute conviction, "This is my family, Kay. It's not me." He speaks these words with the assurance of someone who truly believes them. He is a decorated war hero, a Marine Corps veteran who fought in the Pacific, the rebellious son who chose to serve America, not the familia. He distanced himself geographically, emotionally, and morally from his father's criminal empire. He built his own identity, piece by piece, far from the overwhelming shadow of the Corleone name. Michael is not just different from his family. He is living proof that it's possible to escape, that you can love people without inheriting their shadows, that you can honor your parents without becoming them. Or at least, that's what he believed. So why, at the end of his journey, did Michael Corleone become exactly what he swore he would never be? And not just a version of his father, but something far worse. Vito Corleone was feared, yes, but also respected, loved even. He had warmth, he had wisdom, he had humanity. Michael became a cold tyrant, a soulless man, an emperor of emptiness, a monster dressed in an Italian suit who rules an empire of absolute fear, isolated from anything resembling love or genuine human connection. In this video, we're going to decode the most silent and devastating transformation in cinema. We're not just going to watch Michael fall. We're going to understand, step by step, how a good man with noble intentions can become a monster. We're going to reveal the deep psychology behind corruption by duty. We're going to explore how familial love can transform into a psychological prison. And we're going to discover how someone can completely lose their humanity while believing, from the bottom of their soul, that they are doing the right thing. Because the tragedy of Michael Corleone isn't about organized crime. It's not about the mafia or Italian vendettas. It's about something far more universal and far more terrifying. How we become prisoners of roles we never wanted to play. How we lose ourselves in the process of trying to save those we love. How the road to hell is paved not with bad intentions, but with familial devotion. Pay close attention to Michael's body language at his sister Connie's wedding in the film's opening scene. He is physically present, yes, but emotionally, completely absent. He is outside the house, literally separated from the party happening inside. He is not dancing. He is not drinking wine. He is not participating in the Sicilian rituals that all the other Corleone men perform with instinctive ease. He uses his military uniform as a psychological shield, a visual statement of an alternative identity. It's as if that uniform were saying, "I am not a Corleone. I am a Marine. I serve America. I have my own values, my own honor, my own code that has nothing to do with Sicilian vendettas or illegal business." While Sonny is completely immersed in the role of eldest son, commanding, arguing, making decisions, Fredo is desperately trying to prove his worth. And Tom Hagen stands by the dawn as the perfect advisor. Michael positions himself as an anthropological observer, an educated foreigner studying an exotic culture that happens to be his own family. He tells the story of how his father helped Johnny Fontaine get a role in Hollywood, how Vito made an offer the producer couldn't refuse. The horse's head on the bed. Michael recounts all this with a detached, almost clinical nonchalance. To Kay, he says, "It's my business, Kay, not mine." The separation is clear, definitive, absolute, or at least he believes it to be. But notice something interesting. Even while denying it, even while distancing himself, Michael knows the details. He knows the stories. He understands the logic. He can explain his father's world with precision, because despite all his resistance, that world is inside him. It was the air he breathed throughout his childhood. It was the water in which he swam even before he knew he was wet. And here is something we all, on some level, recognize deep in our souls. The desperate desire to be seen as an individual, not as an extension of our lineage. Michael loves his family deeply, but refuses to be defined by it. He respects his father, admires his strength, but does not want to inherit his blood-stained throne. How many of us carry this same inner conflict tearing at our chests? We love our families, but we fear being consumed by their expectations like a fire devouring oxygen. We respect their sacrifices, but we don't want to repeat their mistakes or perpetuate their dysfunctional patterns. We want to honor them without losing ourselves in the process. We want to maintain the connection without losing our identity. It's a delicate dance, a psychological tightrope walk that we all try to cross. Michael Corleone represents the son who tries to construct his own narrative within a book already written. He embodies the fantasy we all nurture, that we can choose who we are regardless of where we come from, that our individual will is stronger than the weight of generations of family patterns. But what Michael still doesn't understand, what he can't see because he's too close, is that running away from his family, and it didn't free him from them. In fact, his resistance, his denial, his insistence on being different only made him perfect for the role he was destined to play. Because he inherited not only the Corleone blood, but the intelligence, the calculating coldness, and the ability to do what is necessary, no matter how brutal. And everything changes on a cold December night. A night when bullets tear through his father's body and also shatter Michael's illusion that he could remain separate, safe, clean. The assassination attempt against Vito Corleone is not merely a dramatic turning point in the plot. It is Michael's call to adventure in the purest sense of the hero's journey. But here's the dark twist. This is not a journey toward the light. It is a descent into the underworld. A fall into darkness disguised as a noble duty. In archetypal terms, Michael is living the archetype of the reluctant king. The one who flees the throne, who hides from the crown, who resists the call of destiny until destiny itself leaves him no choice. Think of figures like Aragorn from The Lord of the Rings, reluctant to assume his role as king. But the crucial difference is that Michael is being called not to save the world, but to delve deeper into the darkness his father built. Observe the transformation that takes place in the hospital, in that absolutely crucial scene. Michael arrives to visit his father and discovers that the guards have disappeared. There is no one there. His father, the great and powerful Vito Corleone, is completely vulnerable, defenseless, an old man in a hospital bed, unable to protect himself. And Michael, for the first time in his life, doesn't have the option of observing from the sidelines. He can't remain emotionally and morally distant. He needs to act. He needs to get involved. Not because he wants to, but because if he doesn't, his father dies. He recruits Enzo, the baker, to stand with him in front of the hospital. Two unarmed men pretending to be dangerous guards. It's pure bluff, pure theater. But it works because Michael discovers something about himself in that moment. He can act under extreme pressure. He can be cold. He can be strategic. He can do what is necessary. But here's the detail that many viewers don't notice the first time. When Enzo tries to light a cigarette, his hands tremble uncontrollably with fear. Michael takes the lighter from him. He looks at his own hands, and they are completely steady. Not a tremor, not a sign of fear. It's a terrifying moment of revelation for Michael and for us. Michael is still technically a civilian. He hasn't killed anyone in the criminal underworld yet. He hasn't crossed that line yet. But something inside him has awakened. A coldness, an ability to disconnect from fear and operate with calculated precision, even under threat of death. It's as if he's just discovered a superpower. Except that this superpower is actually a sign of something breaking down inside him. Fear is human. Empathy is human. Moral hesitation is human. And Michael is beginning to lose access to these things. And then comes the public humiliation that seals his fate. McCluskey, a corrupt police officer who should be protecting citizens but is in Sollozzo's pocket, breaks Michael's jaw in front of everyone. Michael is beaten like a dog, scarred, humiliated, and his father remains vulnerable. At that moment, the last bridge to his old life begins to crumble. Because Michael realizes a fundamental truth. Playing fair doesn't work. Staying on the right side of the law doesn't protect anyone. The system is corrupt. The rules he thought were sacred are only convenient for those who already have power. The scene where Michael proposes assassinating Sollozzo and McCluskey is fascinating. Sonny laughs at him. Tom Hagen questions him. They still see Michael as the younger brother, the war hero who doesn't understand how things work in their world. But Michael describes the plan with military precision. He has already thought of every detail. He has already calculated the risks. He has already accepted what he needs to do. It's all personal, Michael says. It's all business, you son of a bitch, Sonny replies, laughing. But Michael is right. For him, this has become intensely personal. It's not about business. It's about protecting his father. It's about honor. It's about not letting those who tried to assassinate Vito go unpunished. And there lies the trap. Michael enters the world of crime not out of greed, not out of ambition, not out of love of power. He enters it out of love, out of loyalty, out of duty. He becomes a killer for the noblest reasons possible. And that makes him infinitely more dangerous than Sonny, who was always violent, or any ordinary mob soldier. The restaurant scene is one of the tensest moments in cinema. Michael is sitting with Sollozzo and McCluskey. They're talking business. Michael is nervous, sweating. He's still human. He's still afraid. He still questions whether he can do this. He goes to the bathroom. He retrieves the hidden weapon. And when he returns, something has changed in his eyes. The deafening sound of the gunshot, the blood spurting, McCluskey falling, Sollozzo trying to understand. Another shot. Michael drops the gun exactly as instructed and runs. But he's not just running from the restaurant. He's running from Michael Corleone, the war hero. He's running from Michael Corleone, the son who would be different. He's running from Michael Corleone, the man who promised Kay he wasn't like her family. Because the moment he pulled that trigger, he murdered more than two men. He murdered his own innocence. He crossed a psychological and moral threshold from which there is no return. Here's the foreshadowing that most viewers don't notice on the first viewing. Every step Michael takes to protect his family, he destroys a piece of his own soul. Every decision made in the name of family duty is a small funeral for who he was. Every moral compromise is a piece of his humanity sacrificed on the altar of loyalty. And the tragedy is that Michael believes he is being strong. He believes he is being a good son. He believes he is doing what is necessary, even when he finds a moment of unexpected happiness in Sicily with Apollonia, a pure and innocent young woman who represents everything he could have been. The past catches up with him with bloody claws. The bomb explodes. Apollonia dies in an explosion meant for him. Love, innocence, the possibility of redemption, the chance to start over. It all explodes in flames and twisted metal before his eyes. Look at Michael's face after the explosion. There are no tears, no screams, no emotional collapse. There is only an icy emptiness, a grim acceptance, a final closure. From that moment on, Michael is no longer a man fighting to protect his family while keeping his humanity intact. He is a man with nothing left to lose, a man who has already lost everything that connected him to normal life, a man who fully accepts that his destiny is to plunge into darkness. And that makes him infinitely more dangerous, because a man without hope, without love, without fear of losing anything more, is capable of anything. To fully understand what happens to Michael, to decode his transformation in a way that goes beyond superficial character analysis, we need to delve into a profound and unsettling concept from Carl Jung's analytical psychology: the shadow family. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychoanalyst who founded analytical psychology, identified that families transmit not only genes, traditions, stories, and food recipes. They transmit unconscious psychological patterns, unresolved emotional complexes, traumas that were never processed, unfinished business passed down from father to son, from mother to daughter, like an invisible curse that no one can see but everyone can feel. Jung called this the collective shadow, or family shadow. These are the dark, repressed, and unintegrated aspects of the family psyche that are unconsciously inherited by the next generation. To understand the shadow that Michael inherits, we need to look at the origin. Vito Corleone wasn't born a criminal. He was born Vito Andolini, a 9-year-old boy who saw his father murdered in front of him by a local mafia boss named Don Ciccio. His mother was killed defending him. His brother disappeared in the chaos. Vito fled to America completely alone, traumatized, without family, without protection, with nothing but his own will to survive. Vito learned the most fundamental and brutal lesson possible at a young age. The world is a violent place. The weak are destroyed. The defenseless are hunted. And power, not kindness, not morality, not law, but brute power, is the only true form of security in this world. So Vito built an empire, not because he wanted wealth or status, but because he wanted to ensure that none of his children would ever feel what he felt, that no child with the Corleone name would ever be vulnerable, never hunted, never destroyed. But here's something crucial. Vito, despite everything, retained his humanity. He had warmth, he had wisdom. He understood people not just as chess pieces, but as human beings with their own pains and dreams. He was feared, yes, but also respected and even loved by his community. People came to him to solve problems because they trusted that he would be fair, within the brutal logic of the world in which he operated. Vito was a king, but a king with a heart. A king who never forgot what it was like to be vulnerable. Michael inherits his father's power. He inherits the empire. He inherits the name. But he doesn't inherit the wisdom. He doesn't inherit the warmth. He doesn't inherit the profound understanding of human nature that Vito possessed. Michael doesn't consciously choose to become the Don. It's crucial to understand this. He is possessed by the archetype of the pater familias, the father of the family, the absolute protector. It's a psychological pattern that has existed for thousands of years, that crosses cultures, that is part of the collective psychic structure of humanity. Here is the insider knowledge that separates a superficial analysis from a deep understanding. Michael is not simply following in his father's footsteps. He is being consumed by the shadow of the role his father created. And because Michael entered this role with resistance, with denial, without conscious preparation, without the gradual learning process that Vito had, he manifests the darkest and most destructive aspects of the archetype. When you consciously embrace a role, you can integrate it in a healthy way. When you resist and are then forced into that role by extreme circumstances, you become possessed by it. You become a distorted and extreme version of it. Vito ruled with a carefully calibrated mixture of fear and love. He knew when to use each tool. Michael rules only with fear, absolute fear, cold, calculating. Vito had trusted advisors. Tom Hagen wasn't just an advisor, he was like an adopted son. Clemenza and Tessio were more than soldiers, they were friends of decades. Michael has disposable subordinates. When Tom questions him, Michael removes him from his inner circle. When Tessio betrays him, Michael executes him without hesitation. When Fredo makes the mistake of betraying his family, Michael orders his death without a tremor of emotion. Vito made calculated decisions based on decades of experience and a deep understanding of how power works. Michael acts increasingly with growing paranoia, seeing betrayal in every shadow, interpreting every question as disloyalty, unable to distinguish between honest advice and a real threat. The familiar shadow of trauma, violence, and obsessive protection that Vito consciously tried to control becomes completely out of control in Michael. It's like a psychological cancer that has metastasized, because Michael never consciously processed what he was taking on. He was simply swallowed by it. The tragedy here is profoundly ironic. Michael believes he is honoring his father. He believes he is protecting the family as Vito would. He believes he is being strong, loyal, a good Don. But in reality, he is trapped in a psychological pattern that he cannot see because he is living within it. He is not leading the family. He is being led by the family's shadow. He is not using the power. The power is using him. And this shadow is hungry. It demands constant sacrifices. It is never satisfied. It is never safe enough. It has never destroyed enough enemies. It has never consolidated enough power. And Michael feeds this insatiable hunger with pieces of his own humanity, one after another, until nothing remains but an empty shell sitting in a chair of power. The baptism sequence at the end of The Godfather is universally recognized as one of the most brilliant and disturbing montage constructions in film history. And to understand Michael's complete and final transformation, to see the exact moment when the last drop of his humanity is drained, we need to decode every layer of this visual and psychological masterpiece. Michael is in the church, standing as godfather to the son of his sister Connie and his brother-in-law Carlo. It is a sacred sacrament, a moment of spiritual blessing, a ritual of divine protection for an innocent child. The priest begins the ceremony with the traditional questions of Catholic baptism. Questions that go back centuries in Christian tradition. Questions about renouncing evil. Michael, do you renounce Satan? Michael, without hesitation, without a tremor in his voice, replies, I resign. And at that very moment, as that sacred word leaves his mouth, his men begin to execute a coordinated series of assassinations, a symphony of violence orchestrated with military precision. All the heads of the 5 New York families, all their rivals, all their enemies, real or potential, eliminated simultaneously in an operation that Michael planned months in advance. Renounce the works of Satan? I resign. Mo Green is shot in the head while receiving a massage. Blood is splattered on the mirror. Renounce the seductions of Satan? I resign. Philip Tattaglia and his lover, riddled with bullets in bed, their bodies torn apart. Renounce Satan himself? I resign. Don Cuneo assassinated at the revolving door. Don Strachey riddled with bullets in his car, along with his bodyguard. Don Barzini, the archenemy, shot on the courthouse steps. And while holy water touches the baby's forehead, symbolizing spiritual purification and birth into the Christian community, blood spills in 5 different locations in New York. While one soul is symbolically saved, other souls are violently ripped from their bodies. This is not merely clever visual contrast. It is a profound statement about Michael's complete psychological fragmentation. This is the dark coronation of Michael Corleone. The moment he officially and completely becomes what Joseph Campbell would call master of 2 worlds, but in the 2 worst possible senses. There is no more internal conflict. There is no more moral hesitation. There is no more humanity fighting against the monster. Michael has completely transcended any cognitive dissonance. He can, simultaneously and without any psychological strain, proclaim his devotion to God while orchestrating a mass massacre. He fully embraces hypocrisy, not because he's aware of it and cynical, which would almost be more honest, but because he genuinely sees no contradiction. In his mind, all of this is justified. All of this is necessary. All of this is family protection. And observe his eyes throughout the ceremony. Notice how there is no guilt flickering there, no remorse creeping at the edges. There is not even an awareness of the grotesque irony of what is happening. There is only calculating coldness, determination, absolute certainty that he is doing what must be done. Michael is not being corrupted at this moment. The corruption is already absolute and completely over. This scene is just the official revelation. It's Michael finally removing the mask of humanity he still wore to the outside world. When he returns home and accepts the ring kisses from his subordinates, the ritual is complete. Michael is no longer a son temporarily fulfilling his duty while his father recovers. He is no longer the war hero who was forced by circumstances to enter the family business. He is the Godfather, the Don, absolute power, the king of an empire of ashes and blood. And then comes the most emotionally devastating moment of the entire film. Kay, the only person who still represents the normal world, the world of light, the world outside the mafia, asks Michael directly, "Did you order Carlo's murder?" It's a simple question, direct. A last chance for honesty. A last opportunity for some remnant of the Michael she knew to manifest itself. Michael looks directly into her eyes, without looking away, without hesitation, and lies. No. He lies as easily as he breathes. Kay wants to believe him, because to love is to want to believe. So she believes him, for a moment. But then she sees the soldiers entering the office. She sees the men bowing. She sees the reverent kisses on Michael's hand. She sees the ritual of absolute submission. And she understands that the lie wasn't just about Carlo. The lie is all of Michael. The door slams shut in Kay's face. Slow, deliberate, final. One of the soldiers closes it while Michael remains seated, accepting tributes. But it's not just a physical door closing. It's the door to Michael's heart, the door to his humanity, the door to any possibility of redemption, the door to his marriage, the door between him and anything resembling genuine love or intimacy. Kay is outside now, forever, separated not by wood and hinges, but by a moral abyss that can never be crossed again. Now, let's pause the movie and bring this into your life, into your world, because this isn't just a story about Italian mobsters. It's a story about all of us. In the name of what duty or protection are you making small moral compromises? Think honestly. Do you lie to protect someone you love? Little lies, sure. White lies. Lies you justify as necessary. Do you sacrifice your values to maintain family peace? Do you swallow your convictions so as not to disappoint your parents? Do you accept toxic behaviors because it's family, and family is forever? Have you become someone you don't recognize when you look in the mirror, but have convinced yourself that you're doing the right thing, that your intentions are pure, that the end justifies the means? Michael Corleone started exactly where you might be now, with a small, justified decision, a small moral compromise, a small betrayal of himself in the name of something greater. Michael Corleone didn't wake up one day and decide to become a monster. Nobody does that. No villain believes they are a villain. Everyone is the hero of their own story. There were 1,000 small decisions, 1,000 small compromises, 1,000 small deaths of the person he was. A murder here, justified as righteous revenge. A lie there, justified as necessary protection. A betrayal, justified as family security. And each decision made the next one easier. Each compromise lowered the standard a little more. Each small death of conscience made the next one less painful. Until one day, he looked in the mirror, and the man looking back wasn't Michael Corleone, the war hero. It wasn't Michael Corleone, the son, who would be different. It was Michael Corleone, the tyrant. Michael Corleone, the murderer of his own brother. Michael Corleone, the man who lied to his wife as easily as he breathed. And it was too late to turn back, because you can't resurrect all those little deaths. You can't undo 1,000 little decisions. The path back was erased step by step, decision by decision. So, in the end, what did Michael gain? When we take stock of Michael Corleone's journey, when we weigh what he sacrificed against what he achieved, what was his reward for sacrificing himself completely on the altar of family duty? He achieved absolute power, not just in New York, but throughout the East Coast. He systematically eliminated all his enemies. Every threat to the Corleone family was neutralized permanently. He consolidated the empire his father built and expanded it beyond what Vito ever imagined. He secured his family's financial security for generations. His children will never know poverty. They will never know vulnerability. He became untouchable, feared by all, respected at least in the superficial sense that no one would dare challenge him openly. He built an empire that seemed unshakable, and he is completely, irrevocably, absolutely alone. Not just physically alone, though he is, but existentially alone, spiritually alone, emotionally dead to anything resembling genuine human connection. Kay eventually leaves him. She simply can't anymore. She can no longer look at the man he has become and pretend that there's still something of the Michael she loved alive inside him. She takes her children and leaves, carrying with her the last chance for Michael to have a life that even remotely resembles normal. And when she leaves, she takes not only her physical presence, she takes Michael's final illusion, the illusion that he could have it all: power and love, empire and family, throne and humanity. Fredo, his own blood brother, betrays him. And yes, Fredo is weak, he's manipulated, he's pathetic in many ways. But Fredo's betrayal is also a reflection of what Michael has become. Fredo feels invisible, unrespected, unloved, because Michael is no longer capable of showing love, even to his own brother. And Michael, cold and calculating as a machine, orders Fredo's execution. Not immediately, because there's protocol. Not while their mother is still alive. But the sentence is pronounced, and eventually carried out. Michael kills his own brother, not in self-defense, not in a moment of rage, but as an administrative decision, like closing a bank account, like terminating a contract. There is no more room for brotherly love. There is no more room for forgiveness. There is no more room for mercy or second chances. There is only empire. There is only power. There is only the cold logic of eliminating threats. Even Connie, his younger sister, the radiant bride from the beginning of the film, transforms into a female version of him. Cold, calculating, manipulative. She becomes Michael's advisor, but not with wisdom or warmth. With cold strategy and a willingness to do what is necessary. The familiar shadow has completely infected the generation. The psychological virus that Vito tried to control has spread uncontrollably through his children. And if you watch The Godfather Part 3, you saw Michael's devastating final fate. An old man, surrounded by wealth that could buy entire countries, but spiritually bankrupt. A man who desperately tried to buy his redemption by donating millions to the church, as if money could wash away decades of blood. He confesses his sins to the cardinal. He cries, finally, for the first time in decades. He admits, "I killed my mother, my father, my children." Not literally, but emotionally, spiritually. He destroyed everything they built. He turned the family he was supposed to protect into an empire of ashes. And when he finally has a chance, one last opportunity to do something right, when he tries to distance himself from the violence, when he tries to negotiate legitimately, the past catches up with him again. His daughter Mary, innocent, pure, not involved in any of the dirty dealings, is shot on the opera house steps, shot in his place. The bullet was meant for him, but it hits her. And Michael lets out a scream that is soundless, a scream that is pure horror and realization, a scream that is the entire soul of a man breaking apart. It is the cry of a man who finally understands, too late, the true price he has paid. That he sacrificed not only his humanity, not only his marriage, not only his brother, but now his own daughter, the last pure thing in his life, destroyed by the shadow he nurtured. Here is the tragic elixir, the bitter reward of Michael Corleone's journey. He gained the whole world and lost his own soul. And that's not just a pretty biblical metaphor. It's literally what happened. Remember the beginning? Come back with me to that moment. Michael at Connie's wedding, sitting in the sun with Kay. He's alive. Genuinely alive. He has light in his eyes. He smiles. And the smile is real, not a social mask. He has hope. He has dreams. He believes in a future where he can be himself and still love his family from afar. He looks at Kay with genuine tenderness, with vulnerability, with the ability to connect emotionally. He is separated from his family's world at that moment, yes, but he is not alone. He has Kay. He has love. He has his own identity. He has a future that is his own. Now look at the end. Really look. The door closing between Michael and Kay. He's in his office, the sanctuary of his power. Surrounded by the symbols of his success, the expensive chair, the mahogany desk, the paintings, the luxury. But it's a tomb. It's a mausoleum for a man who is technically still alive, but who died inside a long time ago. He is surrounded by loyalty bought with fear, not earned with love. He stands at the pinnacle of his empire, yet at the bottom of the deepest imaginable existential abyss. He has conquered everything, and yet has nothing. He protected his family and destroyed everything that made his family worth protecting. Michael Corleone protected his family. He secured the Corleone legacy. He became the most powerful Don in New York. He did everything he believed he should do. But he lost Michael. And once you lose yourself, once you completely sacrifice your soul on the altar of any cause, no matter how noble, no matter how much power you amass, no matter how many enemies you destroy, you are already dead. You're just an empty shell performing functions, a zombie in an expensive suit, a ghost haunting your own empire. The story of Michael Corleone is a mirror. A dark mirror that reflects uncomfortable truths about all of us. It's not about the mafia. It's not about organized crime. It's not about Italian violence or Sicilian vendettas. It's about the subtle and silent way we lose ourselves while trying to do the right thing. It's about how the best intentions can pave the road to hell. It's about how love can turn into a prison. It's about how duty can become a curse. Sometimes, the greatest tragedy is not losing the war against your enemies, but winning the war against yourself. Think about it. Really think about it. Michael wasn't defeated by Solozzo. He wasn't destroyed by Barzini. He wasn't beaten by Fredo or any of his external enemies. Michael defeated Barzini with surgical precision. He defeated Tattaglia without breaking a sweat. He defeated all the heads of the 5 families in a single coordinated operation. He won all the foreign wars. But he lost to the only person who truly mattered, himself. He lost the internal war, the war for his soul, the war for his humanity, the war for the person he promised himself he would always be. And this defeat is infinitely more devastating than any bullet, any betrayal, any external conspiracy. Because in the end, it wasn't his enemies who destroyed him. It was his duty. It was his blind loyalty. It was his unquestioning determination to protect his family at any cost. It was his inability to say no. It was his acceptance that the end justifies the means. It was his willingness to sacrifice pieces of his soul in the name of a greater cause. And that is the most frightening, most disturbing, most relevant lesson from the Godfather for our lives. The roles imposed upon us, especially the noble roles of protector, leader, savior, strong son, the one who holds everything together. can turn into gilded cages. We can enter these roles with the best intentions in the universe and emerge as monsters we don't recognize in the mirror. We can start by protecting those we love and end up destroying everything that made that love worthwhile. We can begin by making small moral compromises and end up completely corrupted without even realizing when we cross the line. Michael Corleone is not a villain in the traditional sense. He doesn't wake up every morning and think, "How can I be evil today?" He believes until the end that he is doing what must be done, that he is protecting his own, that he is honoring his father. Michael Corleone is a tragedy, a modern Greek tragedy, a tragedy that begins with love and ends with total isolation, that begins with protection and ends with destructive paranoia, that begins with noble duty and ends with the complete destruction of everything that was meant to be protected. And the most disturbing truth of all, any one of us, under the right circumstances, with the right pressures, with the right justifications, could follow exactly the same path. But now imagine another story, a different kind of tragedy. Or maybe it's not even a tragedy. Maybe it's something even more disturbing. Imagine a man who is not forced into power by violence against his father. A man who does not act out of family duty or ancestral loyalty. A man who does not carry the weight of generations of trauma and expectation. Imagine a man who sees excess, greed, moral corruption, and absolute selfishness, not as a necessary burden, not as a sacrifice he must make, but as a playground, as a party, as the most fun and exciting thing in the world. Michael Corleone became a monster out of duty. He was consumed by the shadow of the family. He sacrificed his soul to protect those he loved. But what if a man embraces monstrosity not out of duty, not out of loyalty, not out of love? What if he plunges headlong into moral corruption simply because he wants to? Because it's fun? Because he can? Because pure, unbridled ambition, without moral or ethical restraints, is intoxicating? What if the monster isn't a tyrant isolated on a throne of dark power, but a charismatic showman surrounded by adoring crowds? What if the journey to the abyss is wrapped not in silent tragedy, but in loud music, hard drugs, and hysterical laughter? In our next video, we're going to analyze the psychology of the Wolf of Wall Street. And you'll discover that there's something even more disturbing than losing yourself while trying to protect the ones you love. It's about getting lost while searching only for yourself. It's about destroying everything around you, not out of necessity, but for pure pleasure. It's the difference between silent tragedy and narcissistic chaos. If this video made you reflect on the roles you play in your own life, on the small moral commitments you are making, on the direction your own journey is taking you, please leave a like. If you know someone who is struggling with family expectations, someone who is feeling consumed by duty, someone who is losing themselves while trying to save everyone around them, share this video. And subscribe to the channel for more in-depth analyses that use pop culture as a mirror to understand the human psyche. Because in the end, these films aren't just entertainment. They're instruction manuals on human nature. They're warnings. They're mirrors. And the deeper we look into these mirrors, the more clearly we see ourselves. Until the next journey into the underworld of the human psyche.